want to talk about the terror of trilogies. No. Not. I think it is the Corman film, the trilogy of terror. Not talking about that, but the terror of trilogies. And Baron, what are you talking about, particularly in this matter? And it's hard sometimes when you get into the world of reading books, even movies and such. We have this almost fanaticism. They have trilogies. We got to have a 3-book series on something. Uh, and I've grown tired of that. And when I see that something's book 1 of something, or I go into a place and I see book 2 of 3, and there's no other one, guess who's not buying the book? Me. Not snobbishness, not spite or anything, but the trick to get you to buy a whole series of books by, okay, we're going to take the story, split into 3 parts, and you have to read 1, 2 to get 3. You just can't go in and jump into 3. You have to read the other 2 books or you won't know what's going on. Trying to tell an embellished story. In my humble opinion, the trilogy craze started off with Tolkien, with The Lord of the Rings. And very unintentionally, mind you. J.R.R. Tolkien, when he wrote the phenomenal Lord of the Rings, and it was about time to be published in the 1950s, England was still suffering from World War II. There was still a shortage on paper and other essentials as they're trying to rebuild, not just London, but areas of England that was also hit by the Blitz, by German bombing, the constant attacks that they were having from the Third Reich. So when this massive tome was delivered to his publishers, they were incredibly hesitant to release that book in that full form. The expense, the risk, who's going to read this big, huge, massive thing? And we're going to waste all this paper, and we don't know if this is going to go. This is such a unique thing. They were scared. So the compromise came down, and of course, anyone who's read Lord of the Rings knows there's actually 6 books. The massive saga is broken down into 6 segments inside there. So the compromise was to come down and break it into 3 parts: 2 books into one, 2 books into another novel, and 2 books in the last novel, and then spread out through the next year or so to the public. Which, of course, it became an incredible hit. And it's my opinion, started that big rush to go out there and make trilogies constantly. I mean, Timothy Zahn. No, not that trilogy, but this one. Do you have it right? There we go. His Conqueror series. 3 books. No offense to him. I'm not insulting. People want to have those. The publishers think it's great because they figure, all I have to do is you'll get into this one, and then we'll leave the ending opened up, and you're going to have to want to read the other one. But you start reading this one. Well, what's going on? Well, I got to go and get this one. And before you know it, you have a ton of books. I was reading as a Babylon 5 fan the trilogies that came out that was expanding that universe that J. Michael Straczynski does state that these are canon. And it was the Technomage series, and I was particularly interested in reading that. Galen and all the others. What was going on? What was the lead up to this? How did they interact with the shadows and with the rest of the universe, and why they're running this and that? I wanted to read that. And I started, and it was a good read, but after a while, I started getting bored because I was starting to find that they were doing fillers. They needed to put words in. They're making a story expand out that didn't need to expand out that big. When you're going over the same thing about 4 times now, expanding on the same thing that was already expanded on before, it's like a broken record. And it's like, well, is this filler? Is it because you need to fill up space? And every author, every writer has to do that. J. Michael Straczynski had to do that in Third Space. He came up about 3 pages of script where Zach was professing his love and was getting nowhere with it because the person he was having that professing to was possessed by an entity. But at the last minute, he wrote this out to fill that space. It was powerful for the movie Third Space. In Star Trek Next Generation, when they had to have a filler, they just had technobabble, which I find was one of the weaknesses for Star Trek, to be honest with you, instead of something more substantive. Technobabble is great for certain things, but not as filler. The one thing I do miss so much is, again, you don't need to have a huge, massive tome or a huge, massive series to tell a story. Sometimes you can get lost. Sometimes you can have something like this. These small little reads, which I miss so much. Quick little 150, 200 page books, or I suppose you could go into novellas. I don't know how you want to hit that, but nice, quick, fast reads. And within it, you have character building, the whole story. You have a beginning, middle, end, and boom, there you are. And yeah, you can go through a bunch of these at one time, but they're fun. Sometimes, this one here, by the way, Armageddon 2419 Anno Domini, written by Philip Francis Nolan. This is the original Buck Rogers story, by the way. And it's always fun to see where the originals come from. But I think we need to start pulling back a little bit from these huge, massive tomes and these huge, massive trilogies. And let's start getting to a little bit of those faster, quicker reads. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not less intelligent for enjoying those or going through there. Sometimes you just need to have that break from constantly having that huge turkey dinner and going out to have a bar burger down the street. Baron Orman Tagg in the offices of Tagg Manor, wishing you all a good day.